My name is Myleah. I have a husband, Michael.
We have two daughters, Lucy, who is 3, and Ellie, who is 5. Both the girls were getting a little older, and we thought it was time to do our first camping trip as a family.
My husband and I both have, jobs, and they're busy and stressful, and it was just great to be as a family unit and out in the middle of nowhere.
We were playing around with the girls, and it was right after breakfast.
And that's when my heart started to race rapidly, which it had done dozens, maybe hundreds of times in my life.
I had no idea anything was going on with her heart.
I had really never presented this to any doctor, any of my family, friends, or anything as a problem. It was just, this is what my body does, and it'll be okay, and this is really normal.
So I started getting her water and thinking maybe she was just kind of dehydrated.
And I laid down and I couldn't breathe.
She was down in water and really wasn't feeling much better.
As I stood up, I realized my whole body cavity, neck and face were numb. I could hardly walk.
And so we started to move her to the car to get her in some air conditioning.
And I'm like, I don't want to ruin our day. I remember thinking that. I'm like, we're finally off grid. We're finally just together, and this is fun, and we have plans. And then something happened where all of a sudden, the only way I can describe it is I lost my breath. And that's when I slipped out of consciousness.
That's when we started putting together a plan to get her out of there.
And then I came to, and my heart just started pounding violently.
We called 911 and had an ambulance come.
Then the guilt starts the other way. Why did I wait so long? And I remember in my mind going, I think I waited too late. I think it's too late.
It wasn't too long after that the ambulance showed up.
And I remember when I heard the words lethal rhythm, lucidly thinking, oh, I might die today. I hadn't even considered that. That was the first moment where I thought, I may not make it out of this.
That whole way we had sirens on, and I had no idea what was going on in the back.
I didn't even get to say goodbye. As I'm seeing my girls playing, and I remember thinking, Lord, I feel like I'm just getting to know them. Like, they're so fun, and I just remember that intense sadness. I just want to know them.
I remember just praying for health and grace for her the whole time.
In the ambulance, they stopped and restarted my heart twice, and it was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. My whole body ached. And he said, now that's just your heart stopping. It's going to kick back in normal rhythm. Just give it just 1 second, hang in there. The trouble is, my heart rhythm came back, but it was just as violent. So he gave me another dose. Hurt, it was awful, came back, it was still out of rhythm.
That's not 45 minutes I'd ever want to relive.
So I arrived at the hospital, they rushed me to the nearest facility, and I remember there was a team of 9 people waiting for me. When I presented there, the heart rate was 283.
And that's when they decided to give her the same drug that they had given her in the ambulance twice to stop and start her heart.
They finally got my heart back in rhythm, and I remember the ER physician said, okay, he said, your blood work is absolutely perfect. He said, we have no idea what caused this and no idea how to treat this. He goes, you can stay here if you want, or you can go home and try to establish care with a cardiologist. And as you can imagine, we just opted to drive the 3 hours home.
And in the morning she woke up kind of early and said, I still don't feel entirely right, and I've got this printout of my EKG. I might run into the hospital to urgent care.
And I remember just handing her my EKG and just saying I had a really bad day yesterday. The urgent care physician came in immediately. I remember he walked over to me and he said, do you realize that you could have dropped dead last night? Because we're just trying to figure out why a healthy 32-year-old with perfect blood work presenting this rhythm, this rhythm that's not compatible with life, was even given an option to go home.
He admitted her to the hospital immediately.
I was informally diagnosed by a nurse at first who just told me because of a certain delta wave that presented on my EKG to not be surprised if I didn't have a condition called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome.
Which means that between the top and lower halves of her heart, there's an extra nerve pathway that creates kind of basically a misfire between the two.
Soon enough, the first cardiologist came in and confirmed what she had said. So then the next day I met with an electrophysiologist. He said for my particular case, the only option was surgery, that any risk that surgery presented was nothing to me just walking around in the world. The surgery is very minimally invasive and quick. I was done within an hour and a half and completely fixed of the rhythm. I think looking back, I'd written off so many key warning signs and symptoms because I am a busy mom, I work full time. I had noticed a lack of energy, a lot of fatigue that posed to be a big red flag. As women, I think there's just this fear of being wrong, or this fear of being told we're crazy, or we're being a hypochondriac, or we're worrying too much. And that's what I've learned in this just has to go. That we have to advocate if something just doesn't seem right. We are so busy and just don't have time to take care of ourselves. Like, no, I'll just do that later. I'll just do that later. There might not be later. I think a humbling part of this journey is, I've been to the American Heart Association lunches and I've sat out in crowds with people thinking that's just not me. It's a really great story, that's a really compelling story, but that's not me though. They're not talking about me.
Heart disease affects 1 in 3 women, and for us that was Myleah. This heart issue that Myleah had wasn't anything to do with diet or exercise or anything like that, but it was something she was born with. And it's important to support organizations like the American Heart Association because they provide research and looking into these sorts of issues.
I'm completely thrilled at the work that the American Heart Association has been doing to fund research, to educate, and to help people ultimately be their own advocate. I think with American Heart Association, it is critical that we support them financially, come alongside in their efforts to educate our communities. I don't think there's a person out there who's not been impacted by heart disease and heart condition issues, maybe not personally, but in their family.
It's important to support the American Heart Association because they help people we love.
My biggest takeaway is to be your own advocate. Ask questions. Be okay to be wrong. Be persistent.
I think that will definitely be something she'll pass on to Ellie and Lucy.
They do watch us and how we respond, and I think seeing me take charge of my health, if I'm making that priority and leading in that, that will impact them as well. I'm Myleah Shrimpton, and I'm a heart disease survivor.